Blessed to be part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Out to our friend Greg Pruitt joining us from the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. How are you, brother?
Well, thank you for waking up so early this morning with us. Of course, you had planned to be on your way to the legislature this early in the morning, but somehow those plans got mixed up. What gives?
Yeah, we were supposed to have a hearing today on House Bill 206 to expand constitutional carry, and something happened. We're not really sure entirely what happened yet, but Senator Lodge, I guess, had a change of heart and wanted Representative Zito to look into some other, I guess, stakeholders to get their support. And we're hearing now maybe it's going to happen on Monday instead, but we'll find out hopefully later today whether or not we're going to have a hearing on this pro-gun bill that gun owners have been pushing for all session long.
You know, Greg, for people that have just moved into the area and they have this perception about how gun-friendly the state of Idaho is, can you give us a brief history of your championing Second Amendment rights and the history of your group, the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance?
Yeah, we started back in 2012, so we're a local grassroots group, a nonprofit group here in the state, and we're not affiliated with any national organization. But I really just wanted to start an organization that was for Idaho, by Idahoans. And, I mean, golly, I remember years and years and years ago, our good friend Eric Macrush bringing me in and meeting you and coming on your show for the first time and just kind of being awestruck at how this whole thing goes down with, going to the legislature and trying to push a pro-gun bill, which I thought was going to be extremely easy because, like you said, Idaho is one of the most pro-gun states in the country. And it turns out I was really naive on how politics really worked and how difficult it was to move legislation, even in a state like Idaho, with a simple pro-gun bill. I mean, the bill we're, pushing this year shouldn't be that hard to pass. And so our goal was to pass constitutional carry, as you know, Kevin, and many of your listeners know. And we fought for that for 4 years and finally got it passed in 2016. And we've had success all across the state, overturning anti-gun signs and ordinances, pushing stand your ground, pushing now to expand constitutional carry once again. So, but we love the gun owners in this state, Kevin, and we want to protect Idaho from being what California, Oregon, and Washington have become, which, those states really don't have a Second Amendment anymore. It's pretty much been destroyed, and we don't want Idaho to get there.
Our great friend Greg Pruitt joining us from the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. What would be your advice to people just moving into the state, just finding this radio station, just hearing about gun issues that have escaped from a state like California? You care so passionately about the Second Amendment that you've, you left us for a little while to help the wacky libs in Wisconsin, to help the resistance against the wacky libs in Wisconsin. You're involved in other states within the Northwest. What would you say to people looking to get involved in, again, having this misconception about Idaho being very, very pro-Second Amendment with the legislature as opposed to the citizens?
Yeah, I don't know, Kevin. I don't know that I have to convince the people moving here as much as I need to convince the people that have been living here. The people moving here, the gun owners especially that have escaped, they know exactly what has happened in their own states, and they know what can happen here. But, for people that are new to the area or new to the state, definitely, we'd love to have them join up with us. But just because there is an R, for a Republican next to your legislator's name, don't just assume they're going to go in and fight really hard and defend the Second Amendment. There's a lot of angst, even among the Republican legislators, about firearms. There are a lot of good legislators who do like firearms, and they are as hardcore Second Amendment as we are. But there are many of them that are not and do not feel the same way that we do. And like you said, these other states have all gone, pretty anti-Second Amendment. And if we don't hold our legislators accountable and hold them to their oath to protect the Second Amendment, eventually, as Ada County has turned pretty blue, and eventually this area, the Boise area in particular, I think will be much bluer in the next 5 years, and we're going to have the same problem that Oregon has with Portland and that Washington has with Seattle and King County. We don't want that to happen, so that's why we've got to make sure that we are protecting the Second Amendment and pushing for the best laws now before we're not able to do that in the future.
Greg Pruitt joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So let's talk a little bit about the Castle Doctrine and other bills that you had brought up. And essentially what you're trying to do, Representative Zito's bill is 18 to 21-year-olds cannot conceal carry within the city limits. That does cover them throughout the other outside the city limits, but within the city limits in the state of Idaho, it doesn't cover them. What are the other weaknesses with our Second Amendment rights here in the Gem State, sir?
Yeah, so that's part of the constitutional carry. That's what HB 206 does. One part of what we tried to get with HB 206 as well was the non-resident issue. So out of the 16 states that have constitutional carry, only 3 states require that you be a resident of that state, and that's us, Wyoming, and North Dakota, which doesn't really make sense. We're supposed to be the wild, wild west state. So if you're a visitor from out of state right now in Idaho, so if somebody from your family comes here from Washington or Oregon, they can carry outside of city limits with no permit. But once they come inside city limits, now they have to have a permit. And to us, it's absurd and it's ridiculous. It's confusing to us, law enforcement. So that's part of what we were trying to get into HB 206. They didn't want to put in there. So we have the age limit restriction that we're trying to lower instead. Our stand your ground laws, we want to be able to, I guess, keep prosecutors from coming after gun owners and make an example out of you. And so we're trying to work with some legislators to make our stand your ground law much better with both. We have civil immunity, but we want to have criminal immunity in there to help protect gun owners. And we tried to get a hearing on that this year. We couldn't get a hearing on that. We need a much stronger preemption statute, which means that local municipalities cannot create their own statutes. Well, our preemption statute doesn't have any teeth. There's no punishment if a city just decides to ban firearms. It's against the law, but there's no punishment for them willfully doing that. So we have to strengthen that. We want to make our campus carry much, much stronger than what they passed back in 2014. So lots of work to do, lots of littler things. It's not like California where, we would have a massive amount of huge fights to go. But we've got a lot of little things that we want to clean up here in Idaho.
Greg Pruitt joining us, the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. So we look at the legislature doing what they usually do, winding things down. How do you think this is going to play out in the Senate, and can you reveal just what went on with your meeting with Senator Lodge yesterday?
Yeah, well, the Senator Lodge meeting was 2 days ago now, but yeah, honestly, Kevin, this has been a really weird session because, as you know, most of the time they don't even give us a public hearing. Tom Lurcher was famous for drawing all of the bills that we ever brought to his committee and wouldn't even give us a public hearing just so we could have an open and honest debate about what was happening. Well, he got removed from office by gun owners, and we had a public hearing on HB 206, and then that passed, and then it went through the House onto the House floor, and then it passed there. And so we're already a lot farther along with a bill than we've been able to do on our own before. And now we're waiting for a Senate hearing, and we were told it was supposed to be today, and now we're hearing maybe Monday. But like you said, the time is running out. I mean, the session was supposed to be over. It's supposed to be over on Tuesday. We're hearing that that's probably not going to happen because of the Medicaid expansion. They believe it's going to take longer than Tuesday to wrap everything up. But we feel optimistic. If we can get a hearing on HB 206, it would pass through the committee, and it probably would pass on the Senate floor, where we've heard a lot of senators are in favor of the bill. So, but again, without that hearing, it would be dead. So it's really up to gun owners to reach out to their legislators, or their senator in particular, and push to get a committee hearing on this ASAP.
Let's go to the phones. Jim in Middleton for Greg Pruitt on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Greg. Thank you guys for being there this morning. Greg, I'm a member of the Second Amendment Alliance, and I'm really happy with the work that you're doing, and you'll get my continued support. Question I have is, did they get that little gun provision out of Marcy's Law that they're pushing on the radio?
Yeah, so I assume you were talking about, and thank you for your support and being a member. I assume you were talking about SJR 101, the first version of Marcy's Law, which potentially could open the door for red flag orders being issued by judges. That was removed in the second version of Marcy's Law. But as far as I know, Marcy's Law is not going anywhere this session, either SJR 101 or 102, the second version that they came out with.
Okay, well, great. I know you guys were on that, and I get your email updates and what have you. Again, thank you very much, Greg. Kevin, thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Guys, have a great weekend.
Thank you, Jim. So I know this is not related to the Second Amendment, but are you surprised, considering how much everybody promised they'd repeal the grocery tax last year, that never went anywhere in this session?
No, yeah, and I'm personally in favor of that, and that's obviously been something that you've been pushing for. No, because here's the thing, and here's how they're very sneaky about how they do these. Right? They did the repeal, and when did they do it, Kevin? They did it right at the end of session.
Right.
And that's how sometimes they will pass some of these bills right at the end of session, knowing that the governor is probably going to veto it. But then they passed it, right? So they can go to their constituents and say, well, I passed it, but the governor vetoed it, right? And so it's easy to blame it on the governor. Well, why don't they do that on the first day of session, the first week of session, so they can override a veto? No, they always wait until the end with some of these bills to get the conservatives on their side, but then be able to, say, well, it's the governor's fault. He vetoed it, and now they haven't brought it up again. Like, what the heck?
But based on your experience as a veteran legislative watchdog, will they bring it up next year when they're all running for re-election?
That's more likely that they'll, because as far as I know, Governor Little is supportive of repealing the grocery tax, or at least he said he was on the campaign trail. So, yeah, I mean, odds are they'll probably repeal it next year because there's, a lot of people will forget about it.
Yeah,
if they pass it this year. So it's easier to pass it next year when everybody's paying attention in election year.
But not to ostracize ourselves from the new governor like we did from the old governor. But if the governor really wanted it done, it would have been done, in my opinion. And, Greg, I don't want you to comment on that. I'm just going to leave that out there. We've got another call for you here. Let's go to Stan in Boise with Greg Pruitt, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Stan.
Good morning. Hey, Mr. Pruitt, I appreciate what you're trying to do for Second Amendment rights, but I got a couple questions, things that concern me. I've got an 18-year-old kid that's just excited as heck about getting this through, and he in no way, shape, or form should be carrying a gun. And I carry a gun quite a bit. My question is, if we're going to push this, would it be easier to get it through? And maybe we're not worried about easy, but we should make it a program in high school that everybody has gun education. I mean, we have sex education in school. Before you can go hunt, you got to go through hunter's education. Before you can drive, you got to go through driver's education. This is something that I think these kids have got to know before they carry a gun. You're responsible for every bullet that comes out the end of that barrel. And we just say, hey, you can go carry a gun. These kids aren't thinking about that. They're just thinking about the power they might have when they're able to carry a gun. So just want to know what your opinion is on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And the training issue does come up, frequently in discussions about HB 206. And I think it's important to keep a few things in mind. Number one, we would happily support any education bills. We supported Representative Ron Nate, who was pushing education in schools. Last year, we would certainly support putting more education about firearms in our statute and in our schools to help with that. But really, in the end, as an adult, we expect these people to be adults. And I think we need to treat them like adults and expect them to have that responsibility. Not everybody's going to be responsible. as we want them to be. But what you really have to remember is that your son right now, or daughter, I don't remember if you said, can open carry right now a firearm, a sidearm, in the state of Idaho without a permit and without technically going through training if they don't want to. They can also concealed carry that same sidearm outside of city limits with no permit. And so, really what we're saying is all we want them to be able to do is put a coat on inside of city limits. Now, we encourage you to go out and do as much training as possible, but at the end of the day, it's not the government's job, or we don't believe they have the right and authority to tell you when you are qualified to defend your life. And that's what a training mandate does. And so for us, yes, go out and do as much training as you can. As a parent, hopefully you're encouraging that, taking them out, doing that training, paying for their classes if they're too poor to do that themselves. But at the end of the day, we're going to, do what's right by the Constitution, and that's why we're pushing HB 206. Additionally, we have 6 states that already have constitutional carry set at 18, and we have asked law enforcement in those states. We've asked law enforcement in our state, show us where currently the 18-year-olds can carry, and we're having a problem with them being irresponsible, and they can't do it because it's not happening.
Right. I agree with you on that. We have not had an incident, but you want to watch the Democrats fire up and go against us. Let some 18-year-old kid that hasn't had any training go out and shoot a bunch of people because he got upset because somebody took his girlfriend from him or whatever. Just, 18-year-old men get goofy.
Well, they also serve in the military.
Right, but what do they do when they go to the military? They train them how to use a rifle. They don't just hand them a rifle and say go out and be a Army guy. They train them.
Yeah.
And why do we have drivers training classes? Why do we have hunter safety classes? All I'm saying is all it's going to take is one incident, and people are going to be up in arms going. And has it happened yet? No, it hasn't. But I'm just saying, let's push to get this through the schools. That way, everybody gets trained. That way, when something happens, we can sit there and go, that wasn't a gun deal. That was a mental break.
Stan, great point. And Greg and I have heard this argument before when constitutional carry, concealed carry was passed the first time we've heard this argument. But let's take your point and expand it a little. Greg, do you feel confident with the state of education today that gun safety could be brought back in just any school system, not the entire state?
Yeah,
would people be receptive to that? Yeah.
That's an uphill battle. I mean, all of this, anytime you talk about guns at all, it's an uphill battle. And right now, the left has such a stranglehold on our education system. It's so incredibly terrible right now. And, I'm all for putting more firearm education back into schools. I think it would be fantastic. As much crap and garbage as we teach them to hate the Constitution and everything else, it would be nice to get that in there. We'll fight for it all day long, but it's going to be tough. And I think we're on the same page there. Let's try to get more education back in the schools so they're a little bit more responsible by the time they come out. But at the end of the day, again, we haven't seen those instances. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen anyway, right? I mean, if somebody's going to be irresponsible, they can do it now, and there would be nothing stopping them. In fact, we've had discussions with law enforcement because they had concerns about gang members at 18 to 20 years old. And we're like, well, they're gang members. They're going to break the law no matter what it is. Let's make sure that law-abiding citizens have their constitutional protections in place. And so go ahead.
Even if you made it an elective or an after-school program, so somebody that's a responsible adult that goes, you know what, son, if you're going to live in my house, you're going to go through that class before you even bring a gun into my house. Just something, because I'm telling you, I agree with constitutional carry. I like the idea. I came from California 20-some years ago,
right,
where it was impossible to get a concealed weapons permit, or next to. But just something that when something goes sideways, because it will, sometime in the next 10 years, something's going to go sideways.
Fair enough, Stan. I got to run. I apologize. Greg, people want to get a hold of you and help the Second Amendment in Idaho. What can they do quickly, sir?
IdahoSAA.org, and you can find us on social media through there and join up through there as well.
Always appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Greg Pruitt joining us, Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Dave Ramsey. Hey, Brian and Neff. It's going to be a few minutes before we get to you, so if you'd like to call back or hang on the line, it's going to be a while. We so appreciate you, brother. Traffic and weather together.
What's Eric Everett?
And I'm Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Our great friends, Aaron and Rob and Aaron, Team Mazda Subaru in studio with us to talk about, I don't know, they're going to, I guess we could call this segment, They're Hip and I'm Not. And we'll find out just how relevant their topics are. We'll put them on the hot spot. And we're very, very glad to have both of you here. We don't really have a legitimate hot seat, but literally, not figuratively. Good morning.
It feels like the hot seat.
Yeah.
Every time we're in here.
Yeah. You got, Kevin, you got Mr. Miller over there, Millie, K-Mill, eyeing us down, waiting for us to make a mistake, say the wrong thing.
It's how I show my affection. Speaking of which, let's begin with a topic that just recently Tanya J. Powers was telling me about, the 50th anniversary of the Woodstock. Now, both of you are very happy about this. My contention is there aren't any real bands anymore. Today it's Tecmo Funk and computer this. Where's a bass? Where's the drums?
That was the best one.
Wow.
We don't have we have a limited budget for sound effects here.
If we could three-way in Corey Thomas for this, I'm sure he'd have a rebuttal to your statement there. He is a connoisseur who is currently down probably at the Treefort Festival.
Well, something, I can see the magic of Treefort, and having had a chance to meet the three people that founded it, and they did it with their own money, they didn't know if it was going to succeed, and it's organic, and people love it, and now there's everything for it. Heck, even Idaho reports, "Hi, everybody, we're funded by the government, but we're going to be live at the Treefort. It's Idaho Fort," which is the show on the public affairs, political show on Idaho Public Television. They're going to be at Treefort, as if that's something, but I give it to people. To me, that's organic. 58 years of Woodstock, do you really think that Jay-Z, as brilliant and talented as he is, can relate to the people that were there 50 years ago? I can't relate to them. And not a shot at anybody. It's just the evolving state of bands. Aaron, you remember Nirvana. Rob, you remember Bon Jovi. Those were bands. Who's at Woodstock? Billy, Skippy, and Timmy?
I don't know the lineup.
Right.
I think you do have a valid point. There are less and less bands that I could think of. Probably, Maroon 5's hot, Imagine Dragons.
Yeah.
But
I think Imagine Dragons is going.
I think there's more like indie bands now than there are like mainstream.
Yeah.
A lot of it is single artists.
Yeah. But still a band per se. The issue is you're talking about one-man bands like Jay-Z.
But he's not really a band.
Like Beyonce.
He's not a band.
She's going to be there.
What instrument does she play?
She doesn't have an instrument.
Right. She's not a front man. I mean, obviously gifted, talented, brilliant, big money. Everybody loves Beyonce. Beyonce. But I'm talking about comparing her to Kurt Cobain, God rest his soul. Comparing her to someone of that genre. And maybe the bands besides the indies, it's over for them.
Well, do you think too that they're infusing this young group of artists in there that are really hip with the youngsters? Because most of the people who went the first time, they're in their 70s, 80s. They might not be able to get there, Kevin, and they want to sell this thing out.
Well, that's a good point. But Rob, do you think anybody wants to see David Crosby at his age? And God love him. Look, I'm close to his age. I'm up there. But my goodness gracious, I don't know if I want to see it. The Rolling Stones, they're playing again. Chicago. They're mid-70s now?
And they're going to be there, do we know?
No, they're not going to be at Woodstock.
But David Crosby is.
They're going to be in Chicago with the big stadiums, but Crosby, I don't know if Stills or Nash, but Crosby's going to be there.
I think to Aaron's point,
Crosby
they're trying to draw in the younger crowd. I know with my college age kids, they're all into the techno, they're all in the hip hop, they all want to hear the rap. That it's different than it was 50 years ago. Can you believe it was 50 years ago?
And it's a celebration of music, right? And it's a big concert, it's big money. And the only way to keep it relevant is to add current talent.
See, I'd rather go to Treefort, although I don't know if Treefort would like to see me. I'd like something that does something for the community. And wasn't Woodstock political?
Yeah, the first.
No,
time,
it will be. It will be this year. I mean,
right?
They won't let you in, Kevin. You'd have to go dressed up as someone else.
By the way, I mean, you go back to this at 580-5436-580-KIDO. You take a look at Jimi Hendrix. Now, that was a musician.
Well, here's one thing I can. He was a great musician, but here's one thing I can guarantee: there will be some Trump bashing going on at that place.
Oh my goodness!
It will be a special tribute to Trump in a negative way.
Well, you're right about that. You're definitely right about that. So let's move on a little from Woodstock. You guys are excited. I'm not, but look, I'm born a curmudgeon. That's just how it is. A likable curmudgeon? Yet to be determined. Boise Music Festival, Pitbull coming.
Pitbull.
Mr. Worldwide.
Oh, worldwide.
And the Eli Young Band. That's an actual band. They play the instruments in their country act. Actually, last year, a year before, they stole the show. Really good.
You think they'll open for Pitbull?
Well, Pitbull will close it out. And I would imagine, since they're the second artist, they will go Eli Young, then Pitbull, or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. They really don't tell me. They tell me to show up and sit in a tent.
Oh.
And I'm very happy.
Oh, you're going to be there? Let's go together.
I am
So
there.
you have some seats for us, Kevin?
I am there every year.
Rob likes Pitbull.
I mean, maybe your audience for the first time can meet Rob and Aaron in person. I mean, we are kind of a big deal.
Sure.
you know, we could sit down with Tea Party Bob and Liberal Steve.
And Pitbull.
Pitbull. Think he'd come down and sit with us? When he sees us, he's going to definitely
He's going to invite
He's
you
gonna,
and I on stage.
Come on up.
You guys
Come
are
on
kind
up.
of a big deal. Can I get a picture with you two?
Is that Rob and Aaron?
Right.
Oh, ridiculous.
So when we think of that, though, we go back to it, we joke about it, but Boise Music Festival, 10 years, Train, Bret Michaels,
Yeah.
LL Cool J, Joan Jett, Robin Thicke, big acts.
Yeah.
Big X.
And your point is that Pitbull's not of that caliber.
No, my point is, I think Pitbull, at one time he ruled the world, still very popular. Still, I think it's great that you don't have to go to Woodstock, you don't have to go to Chicago, you have something here for the community. Now, a lot of us will be working it, but the ability to put that on for 10 years, you see people, you guys haven't been, right?
Oh, yeah, I've been.
You've been?
I've been multiple times, yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually, because Rob's there, we're never in the same place at the same time.
Yeah,
so
we
I'm
don't.
usually at work and Rob's there.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I remember the last few years Aaron wasn't at work, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure where he was.
Yeah.
But I was, of course, working. But no, I have been, and it's chaos. There's people everywhere, and it's a blast. We always, I would say the majority of the people that work at our store go. They love it.
We're
Yeah,
looking forward to that. June 22nd. Get your tickets now.
June 22nd. It's usually really warm.
It is.
Wear your shorts.
Some of us wear our shorts all the time. Moving
That's
right
true.
along
That's true.
with Aaron and Rob and Aaron, Team Mazda Subaru. As we've talked about, and we've thanked both of you for sponsoring Miller's Mission for many, many years. We've got a big one coming up the week before Memorial Day. As always, living at the Walmart, Garrity and Franklin. But man, you heard about you guys. You guys are big money people.
What are we driving this year? What? Because I love Boise Rescue Mission. We are
Sure.
Aaron and I are big fans.
Right.
We've done lots.
You donate,
we,
yeah.
Well, we just want to be a part of it. It's
Sure.
just a great place for us to be. It was clear when we met you and that you were already part of this. And thanks for bringing us aboard. But what are we supporting this year?
Well, we have yet to determine that, but I have a very secret idea that we will discuss with Reverend Bill. However, we've got a big challenge that your charitable deductions, you can't deduct your charitable deductions anymore. So charities around the country, around the world, in our area, are getting hit because of the new tax rules. People are not giving to charities because they don't get the tax break anymore. Huge losses for charities.
Well, that's not going to happen here. I think the people of the great state of Idaho and in the great city of Boise
Hold on.
will come together for you like they always do. I think there's more of a sense of community and giving, and the people that you've surrounded yourself with, they're not going to stop.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's this is a huge year coming up because it kicks into effect, and you've got people that are used to a certain level of fundraising, boom, taken away because of the tax cuts. Everybody's getting hammered on the new tax deals. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it funny? Everything's a trade-off.
Sure.
And hey, I got more money back. Now I got to pay more. Come
Yeah,
on.
right. It's a trade-off. Well, okay. So here's what I can do. So Team Mazda Subaru is in Nampa Caldwell, and we're right on the border, and we're Canyon County. So we can basically challenge those folks in Canyon County to battle those folks in Ada County to who can give the most money to the rescue mission. Now that includes the Lighthouse, which is out in Nampa. Can you list them for me?
The Lighthouse, the Valley Home for Women and Children, Those two are in Canyon County. You've got the River of Life. You've got City Light. You've got the Warehouse, City Light Home for Women and Children. 3 facilities in Ada County, 2 facilities in Canyon County. And, the Boise Rescue Mission, 60 years, what you think really it should be like the Idaho's Rescue Mission.
Yeah, really.
The amount of work they do.
And when you donate to Boise Rescue Mission, it supports all 6 of those facilities.
It does, right.
Yeah, right.
It does. And we have a really good idea for this year. We're not dressing up as George Washington. We've got a really good idea for this year. So
can we dress Aaron up? Because he loves costumes. And he just loves theater.
Nothing's better than Giblets the turkey, though.
Oh, that's true. We did enjoy the turkey.
That's my
We
favorite.
might have to get back
costume
to that
watch,
one.
Kevin. And
November can't come fast enough.
No. And I'll tell you, the great thing about the Boise Rescue Mission is the people that you meet who have gone through the program, who are now assisting and managing and have come through this other side. And you can really see directly how it affects people's lives and how it helps them make that change. And that's not counting the thousands and thousands of people that are out in the workforce now that had to go there for a little help.
They needed some help.
And
Yep.
they're now productive members. And you know what? Those people are always there helping and giving what they do have.
Right. Giving back.
Yep.
So Miller's Mission coming up. Much more with Aaron and Rob. Your thoughts, finally, on the state of the economy here. What are you guys seeing?
Well, we've seen a nice comeback after the winter months for us. We were a little bit off October, November, December, not just slightly, but then January, February, March, we've seen a resurgence in the amount of customers and customers that are coming to see us.
Fair enough. No pithy comments?
He hit it right on the head. So I would say that, additional to our growth is
No
is
smack
also,
here? No smack at all?
And
Thank you.
People are still moving here,
Thank you, Aaron.
which hurts and helps at the same time.
Aaron and Rob and Aaron, go see them this weekend. Come see me today with them. 1 to 3, 1 to 4. I'll be there hanging out on the couch.
Today, Kevin will be on the couch, hanging out, waiting for his car to get worked on. You got a recall.
Right. I'll be
Recall,
at the
get the recall fixed. There's a few recalls out there. They got the airbags thing going on.
airbags.
Yeah.
Looking forward to
We're
it.
seeing lots of those people come in and they get to see us for the first time in some cases. We like to have them.
Have some coffee, have some
some coffee.
water, have
Yep.
some snacks.
Yep.
Meet
And
the great Kevin Miller.
Meet Kevin Miller.
I'm blushing. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be with you. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget, as we heard from Aaron and Rob and Aaron, Boise Music Festival going to be here June 22nd before you know it. A lot of great events coming up here in the Treasure Valley. We've got Idaho's largest garage sale in addition to that Boise Music Festival. And, of course, promoting our schools, securing our future, and a couple things going on. The mayor of Boise emerges during Tree Fort to tell everybody to be kind. Also, the number one reason why we should not legalize marijuana in the Gem State. And just a note to you, dear true believer, if you missed the last part of the show yesterday, we had a chance to talk to the prosecutor in Twin Falls. By the way, if anybody knows Craig Kingsbury in Twin Falls, former police chief in Nampa, we've reached out to him on Twitter. We've emailed him. We haven't heard back from him, which is very unlike Chief Kingsbury. Look, our jurisdiction is the Treasure Valley. Twin Falls, a lovely place. We do have listeners in Twin Falls, but anybody associated with the Twin Falls Police Department, please let the chief know we'd like to get him on. We loved it when he was here in Nampa. Nampa Police Department doing an outstanding job, continuing on that excellence. Great chief there now. But it's very weird that Craig Kingsbury hasn't returned our emails. But if it sounds familiar, we're going to replay the prosecutor from yesterday, and then we're going to dovetail into what happened concerning this horrific crash that killed so many on Cherry Lane in Meridian. A lot going on. First, traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio.
I'm just Channel 7's Every Gibbard.
And let's get to Brian in Nampa, who's been very patient. Brian, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, Kevin. I want to talk about two things, the New Zealand thing, and then real quick, what I think about guns and driving for kids. So let's do the kids first. Is that okay?
Sure. Kids first.
So I grew up in Idaho. I grew up on a ranch, and I've taught 3 of my 4 kids how to drive. I've taught 3 of my 4 kids how to shoot, how to pack a weapon, how to use it. Do I have a problem if the school does that too? No, it's just reinforcement. But the point being is I do it because I do more advanced stuff than the schools do or than driver's ed does. I teach them the basics, and then once they get the basics down good, then we go into the more advanced things. And I do the same thing with firearms. I don't start out with big guns. I start out with small guns, and once they're comfortable and they're safe and they gain my trust, just like a car, then I graduate them up if they want to the next level. And so the guy's right. You need training, but we've been doing this in Idaho for generations of training our kids for multiple generations. And, you know, I know there's a lot of people that are unfamiliar with firearms and trust the state to train their kids on how to drive. I'm not one of those people. I train them on all of it. And there's a reason for that, because I do more advanced stuff. That's why we don't want that necessarily. We do it ourselves. The New Zealand thing, the majority of those murders, I watch the videos. I'm a weird guy, you know, used to be in law enforcement. I want to figure out what the guy did and how I can beat him, right? The majority of those murders were at the first mosque. 7 of them are at the second mosque when he got resistance that was enough to basically stop him. So if we would have had, I don't know, you know, we did the little Fist of the Lord thing, John Browning's 1911. If we would have had one guy at that first mosque armed, this wouldn't even been a story. And that's my point. And we need to get tougher on these Democrats that call themselves Democrats, but they're communists. You know what the difference between a socialist and a communist is, Kevin?
What's that, Brian?
A communist uses a gun to enforce socialist ideas. So you got Bernie Sanders, AOC, Beto, and all these Democrats that call themselves democratic socialists. They're really communists. They want to come here in America, and they want to take away your right to defend your family, your country, or your state. And that's what they are, and we need to get tough on them and call them out and point that out. You're either one of three things if you want to take guns away. You're a tyrant, you're a Nazi, or you're a communist.